Hollywood nowadays that any character can be played by a black person, but no black character can ever be played by anyone else.
Time again in the entertainment industry over the past several years, we've seen people attempt to race swap fictional characters.
Netflix continues to make this meme more relevant with every passing week.
Netflix has now come out with a new Cleopatra series produced by noted Egyptologist and historical expert Jada Pinkett Smith.
And now they are in full panic mode.
And it nearly always blows up in their faces.
Okay, check 1, 2. What is going on, people? Welcome to the King's Monologue. Thank you for joining me on this channel. I'm going to be doing a live reaction to the Cleopatra Netflix series. Now, I'm going to be totally honest and frank with you. This is not something that I probably planned on doing or even intended on doing. I took very little interest, and if I'm going to be totally honest with you, I'm still not very interested in watching this documentary. So, spoiler alert, I'm open to be won over, but at least my starting position isn't one where I'm going to give a positive review of this. I feel like it's a little bit of a handicap, and it's totally unfair because I'm not entering this neutral, because already the subject matter and my knowledge of the production company, in this case Netflix, has got my back up slightly. So there's certain things that I'm expecting to see. The good thing is, and the honest thing is, that this is a totally blind reaction. This isn't, I'm going to be pretending to react to something that I've already seen. This is something that I've not seen. I've only heard about third party, and I've only just heard, have you seen Cleopatra? So I've got so many people in my comments telling me, we need you to react to Cleopatra, or have you seen Cleopatra? I thought, you know what, let me do that. It's a hot topic. I never do hot topics. Why not? It's totally fictitious, I'm guessing. And obviously there's there's a degree of controversy and anger about the fact that this is being made, and they're using I don't know if it's a biracial or a black woman, because I haven't seen it yet, but they're using a woman with, black blood in her to portray Cleopatra on the African continent. Now, what I find really funny about this is, first of all, to kind of let my position be clear on this. Obviously, those of you who come to this channel, you'll know that I don't give any regard to the Ptolemaic dynasty, because essentially it was a colonizing class, wasn't it? They came to colonize Egypt, they invaded, they took over, and they weren't indigenous Egyptians. So when it comes to me kind of, I'm happy to actually explore the Ptolemaic dynasty from a Greek perspective, as a Greek dynasty and as an invading dynasty. And if I'm going to explore it as a historian, I'll do it in that regard. But I'm never going to classify the Ptolemaic dynasty as, dynastic Egyptian rulers or indigenous Egyptian rulers, because they just simply weren't that. They were, a group of invading people, much like, pilgrims in America. They're not the same as the Native Americans, just like the English in Australia. They are not the same as the Aboriginal Australians. These are an invading class of people. So as much as there is a romantic interest and mystery that surrounds Cleopatra, the reality is that she came from a class of invaders, or at least she supported or married into a class of invaders. Now, this is so nuanced, and there's so many different things to discuss here. I don't want to kind of miss or forget any of them. So let me just kind of throw it out now and then go into the reaction video. But I'll throw it out now. First of all, Cleopatra, there were many Cleopatras. There was more than one. Every Greek queen or every Greek wife of Ptolemy was called Cleopatra. So sometimes when people are showing what Cleopatra looked like, they'll just conflate that and they'll kind of grab random Cleopatras. And actually there was several. The first Cleopatra, I'd imagine, would have been the most indigenous, because she would have either been fully Egyptian or half Egyptian and married into the Ptolemaic dynasty. This is the reality of who Cleopatra or the Cleopatras were. Secondly, like I mentioned very briefly, Netflix, not a big fan. And the overriding reason is because Netflix has got a thing against the black male. They do not want to portray the black male image. They're trying to erase the heterosexual black male, the black male father, the black male partner. They're trying to erase that image. Even the black male son, they don't want any black males in their shows. They will show black males, but only under the auspices of being homosexual, basically. And actually, they do quite a good job of doing that with black females as well, but just to a lesser degree. With black females, they'll either be homosexual or they'll be with a white partner, so they'll be interracial. And by the way, I've got nothing against homosexuality, nothing against interracial couples, but when there's an agenda to erase what you are, when there's an agenda to kind of erase the most common image of black males, which is what we see when we go out and we walk on the street and we meet and greet people. The most common black male you'll meet is a heterosexual black male, and they have zero representation across an entire portfolio and platform of movies and series. There's a serious issue there. And so I always know when I go into a Netflix kind of show, this is what I'm expecting. Disney does the same as well. Disney's got a horrendous agenda against the image of the black male. Black females tend to be with interracial couples or homosexual. That tends to be kind of like the Netflix standard in terms of how they portray. So there's not really any opportunity to just see a functional black family. And if I'm looking at the story of Cleopatra, and why would they make Cleopatra black? I'm assuming then they're going to make Ptolemy, lily white here, aren't they? They're going to make him ultra white. So they're going to make this a kind of an interracial couple thing. They're going to ignore the fighting portraits and the fact that the Macedonians were probably more phenotypically similar to your modern North Africans, your modern Egyptians. Phenotypically, that's what they look like. But they're going to ignore that and they're going to go for lily white male partner and black female interracial couple, excellent agenda to push there. Anyway, I've rambled on for far too long, and I say that a lot as well. I'm going to watch this now. This is a live reaction. I don't think we'll let it play through. I'm probably going to kind of stop it, talk, but we'll see. Maybe there won't be any talking points. Let's have a look, but let's go. Just need to put these on.
There was a time long ago when women ruled with unparalleled power as warriors, queens.
I mean, so instantly, I don't hate that image of Cleopatra. What is see, this is the thing. I've heard already that, the Egyptian such and such is writing to Netflix and in anger. Every other Egyptian woman I've met looks like this woman. Most Egyptian women who are not totally of, Mamluk, Turkic, Syrian ancestry look like this. This is a very common phenotype in Egypt. And I'm not even talking about south of Egypt. I mean, North Egypt, Cairo, Alexandria. You will meet many women who look like this, and they'll speak with an Arabic tongue, and it throws people off so they can't see this phenotype. But this kind of like light-skinned mixed race kind of image is not rare in Egypt. So the furor that's being kicked up, I feel like this is very deliberate. But anyway, let me let it play.
Queens, mothers of nations. And
I mean, that is just she could pass for an Egyptian woman, honestly, and no one would bat an eyelid. The only reason there's an issue being made here is because there's a deep-seated fear of Black people claiming the ancient Egyptian civilization or any kind of civilization of the past, and that's a deeper issue there. And what a screen to pause it there. Jada Pinkett Smith. She's no one's favorite person, is she? That's enough to get you cancelled right there. Just have her name in it. Anyway, let's play.
There is none among them more iconic than Cleopatra.
I would die for Egypt. What would you die for? I am Isis. I am a god.
As long as...
So they're going for warrior Cleopatra. I don't know how true that is. It might be. But once again, the more and more that I'm seeing this actress, the more I'm thinking, what the hell is the big deal? She's so standard Egyptian looking, kind of like, in terms of if you're going to pick a black woman who was going to least offend Egyptian sensibilities, you would assume that this would be the person, wouldn't you? Goodness me.
She's alive. She is the pharaoh.
My father's will names me co-ruler of Egypt.
Julius Caesar is aware that Cleopatra is one of the best educated women in the Mediterranean.
He wants to be king to Cleopatra's queen.
There is no future without...
She was using these relationships with Mark Antony to protect herself and her country.
There is no Rome without Egypt.
So they're going for this is the classic Cleopatra and Mark Antony story. And there's a reason. Look, what I don't want to happen is, and I feel like this is kind of what's being built up here, but what I don't want to happen is for people of the African diaspora, black people, melanated people, people on the African continent, to really kind of like get behind this and be like, oh, you know, Cleopatra was black, blah, blah, blah. And kind of the only reason this story is romanticized, you know, is because it's one of those stories that's favorable to the European dialogue. Okay, it's one of those stories that's Eurocentrics love this story because it's funny. They have this version of the invasion of ancient Egypt by the Greeks, of basically the ancient Egyptians welcomed them with open arms and said, rescue us, oh Greeks, you know, colonize our country, please rescue us. I mean, this is pure fanciful lunacy that you get from Eurocentrism. Okay, they romanticize the most bizarre things. Egypt was colonized. The greatest dynasties of Egypt had fallen. You know, the Egyptians were scattered and desolate, and Rome was milking and bleeding Egypt dry. This is the reality of this period in time. There's nothing romantic about it. Not if you were an indigenous Egyptian, that is. You're just your country has been overrun by foreigners. But they'll romanticize it and they'll want us to kind of like get behind it and yeah, we have to back this documentary. No, we don't. We don't. And I don't think you need to feel a need for us to make this a them and us situation, or to take up your battle stations and, you know, take up your positions ready to go to war over this. This is not what we're fighting for. This is what you call low hanging fruit, where they're trying to kind of give us scraps. So, okay, we'll give you Cleopatra, you can have that, you know, and then, you know, the rest of the world looks through history books and laughs at us because they say, well, Cleopatra was Greek and she was married to a Roman. Are you got to sit there and claim the Greeks and Romans were black? And I'm not going to go into that. That's a whole nother discussion. But you can see the point here. They're distracting us from the real issue. And the real issue is that indigenous Egyptians were of African melanated ancestry, were black African. And that's what they'll try and distract you from with these kind of things. But anyway, let me let it play.
Cleopatra was trying to save the country that she loved from destruction.
I did what I had to do to protect what is mine.
This is a woman exercising power.
Cleopatra was a Ptolemaic ruler. The very first Ptolemy is a general of Alexander the Great.
It's possible that she was an Egyptian.
I've just paused it here, and what's interesting here, and I like this image here, these are the kind of Nguni neck beads, okay, that obviously they had in ancient Egypt. So they're showing African continuity here. So this might be one of the things that got the Egyptian antiquity angry, because they're proving that ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt has continuity with Africa. So I've paused it here totally by accident, but you'll know if you're subscribed to my channel that I love portraying continuity between ancient Egyptian cultures and modern African cultures, and this is one of them. This is an undeniable cultural carryover, and there's so many more that I kind of touch on in my channel. But I love this. This is good. This is one of the first things that I really like.
Imagine her to have curly hair like me and a similar skin color.
I remember my grandmother.
I mean, there you go. That guy, I don't know if he was Egyptian or not, but he said, you know, curly hair like me, similar skin color. That's what I'm seeing. I see nothing that any native Egyptian should really find offensive about her appearance. Most native Egyptian women don't look very far from this. So, yeah, like I said, I find that quite bizarre.
Saying to me, I don't care what they tell you in school, Cleopatra was black.
She has become an icon.
I am a god.
And I keep pausing, I'm sorry. I can't believe I'm making so much of a talking point of this. But this, that kind of Cleopatra was black. I'm not going to mock it because I came from a similar kind of understanding point. But the reason, you know, black people, melanated people across the world kind of like cling on to Cleopatra is because of Hollywood. It's because of Hollywood. It's because of, you know, the history books we've been presented with. It's because we don't know the names of, or at least we didn't know the names of the real ancient Egyptian rulers. We just knew Cleopatra and we knew that she was Egyptian, so therefore she was black. Understanding the fact that the ancient Egyptians are black, and if that's the only name you know, that's what you're going to go for. Now, obviously, when you pick up your books and you read and you understand more about ancient Egyptian history, you realize that she was of the colonizer class. You realize she wasn't ancient Egyptian, or at least wasn't fully ancient Egyptian. Certainly after the first Cleopatra, the ones that came afterwards weren't fully ancient Egyptian. So once you understand those things, then you're kind of happy to let go of Cleopatra. But lots of people who kind of just know the name of Cleopatra, this is where that comes from, that need to say that she's black. Now, obviously, you heard from the start of the video, I care not for Cleopatra. I don't care if she was black, mixed race, whatever, because it was a different era. It's like, you know, imagine in America, you know, arguing about trying to prove the race of the, you know, Aztecs using modern American people. You just couldn't do it. So this is where I am with that. But I get where that's coming from, saying, you know, I don't care what they say, Cleopatra was black. But hopefully a bit of reading and a bit of education into ancient Kemet will kind of bring you to the understanding that it doesn't matter if she was black or not. She may have been black, she may have been mixed race, she may have been, you know, fully Greek. It's irrelevant.
Queen of Kings.
Her story resonates with every woman.
I mean, yeah, it's what I expected. What's the big deal? God only knows. You know, the fact that, see, when they do things like this, you know, when Disney created that Little Mermaid and they turned Ariel black, you know, all they're doing is stoking a fire. They know they've got this kind of like cesspool of angry European males who just kind of like, you know, feeling like they're under attack at the moment and kind of like snapping at everything that takes place
in Hollywood nowadays, that any character can be played by a black person, but no black character can ever be played by anyone else.
Time again in the entertainment industry over the past several years, we've seen people attempt to race swap fictional characters.
Netflix continues to make this meme more relevant with every passing week.
It's like they're enjoying that. They're enjoying stirring this pot. So they're like, oh, you know, let's take all the famous icons that we've built up, you know, fictional characters like the Little Mermaid, who black people don't care about. Let's turn her black. You know, let's turn Thelma from Scooby-Doo, you know, I don't know if she's Asian or black, but, you know, let's just turn, you know, all their little favorite characters, let's turn them black and see what the public do. And they kind of create these ridiculous arguments. And I feel like Disney really enjoy doing that. That's a company there, in my opinion, that just has no regard for humanity. All they want to do is kind of create division for profit. Now, I get a little taste of this, you know, with this show. I don't feel like it's being done. They could have picked any Egyptian queen and made them black. It would have been less controversial if they'd picked like Queen T. There would have been more supporting arguments for it. And basically it wouldn't leave black people with egg on their face when later on it comes out and it's proven, you know, you're looking at the queens of Cleopatra and the kind of like the artworks of Cleopatra and you kind of go, oh, she doesn't really look black. And then black people are left with egg on their face and it's like, oh yeah, it's just the times we're in right now, isn't it? The woke era, wokeism, you know, black people just turning everyone black, you have for a century. You know, you can see how this is deliberate. They're deliberately feeding into that dialogue to take away the legitimacy of melanated African ancient Egypt. That's been proven. Hopefully, if you've been on my channel for some time, you can see it proves itself. It doesn't even need us to fight for it. So I feel like this kind of detracts from that somewhat. It's what I expected, like I said, from Netflix. But, you know, all in all, massive overreaction. I think it's deliberate. I think the controversy is deliberate. They know the controversy's got to get views. And they also know the controversy's got to get division. And ultimately, the controversy's probably going to lead to, you know, the very legitimate claims of, you know, melanated African Egypt, ancient Egypt, black African, ancient Egypt. The very legitimate claims of that are now going to come under the same criticisms as the showrunners who made this show will get for this show. So this is kind of my issue with it. I haven't got an issue with the portrayal of Cleopatra. I don't understand why any Egyptian would have an issue with that portrayal. It's mildly melanated at best, and not far from your very normal North African phenotype. I can only imagine the people who are making that issue are either fully of kind of Syrian, Turkic, Mamluk ancestry, or are just being put under pressure by European funded agencies, media agencies. I have no idea, but yeah, that's it. If you liked it, please do hit the like button if you like this, and if you'd like me to do some more reactions. I can't do it on every topic, as you can imagine, but I actually didn't mind doing this too much. It gave me an opportunity to just speak, and this channel is called The King's Monologue after all. Please do support me on Patreon if you like the work that I'm doing. It does allow me to kind of produce a bit more work, and if not, just hit that like button and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe. We've got some really good content on this channel that covers the topic of history, including ancient Egypt, but in the kind of depth that you need in this very crazy, uninformed world. But anyway, thank you very much for joining me on The King's Monologue, and I will see you on the next one.